Okay, let's go.
You know, if you told me 7 months ago that I'd be making fictional hybrids to compete with the hybrids of other YouTubers, I probably would have laughed at you. But here we are. Even back in March, I sensed the possibility that an avian hybrid war would break out, with Zen Reborn's Maddie taking center stage. As a result, I cooked up my own avian hybrid that would be able to annihilate the competition. But when Goji Center's hybrid war came to a close, and with Zane Reborn happily walking away with the honorable mention, and me getting jack shit, I began to have the project mothballed. Fast forward to today, and Zane Reborn finally has a second contender, just after my stupid ass throws out a psychotic hottie badger to screw with Goji Center's Mortalida Anthropicus. Well, I guess I didn't dedicate my efforts and partially jeopardize my school year for nothing, after all. Let's go wreck some birdies. By now, I think you know the drill. We'll start with the base genome. Contrary to both Zane Reborn and Goji headquarters, I will not be using the Falcon. Instead, I'll be using something that is much more familiar, especially to me. I'm picking the Eurasian magpie. Even amongst corvids, magpies are quite smart. The smaller size of magpies often encourages them to be more social, maximizing the advantages of mobbing behavior. But what I was truly after that separates magpies from the rest is their tail. Their tail feathers are exceptionally long, up to half of its total length. This is an adaptation from magpies to boost maneuverability and agility, without making significant sacrifices like the hummingbird did. This is further bolstered by the fact that, as songbirds, their lower wing aspect ratio will make performing advanced aerobatics much easier. This will come at the cost of endurance though, as a lower aspect ratio usually results in higher drag. But since I'm aiming for a true ruler of the skies, which would favor living in the mountains, this isn't too big of an issue, especially with what comes next. As a reminder, Maddie has a wingspan of 6 meters and weighs some 40 kilos. I find this rather odd since flying animals were able to get much bigger, especially Argentavis. And since they didn't design them with a specified size cap in mind, I get to use the underrated power of size once again. In the case of Maddie, Zane Reborn used Argentavis, a prehistoric eagle, whilst Goji headquarters used Helicopteryx, which is one of the largest flyers of all time. But I'm going with one whose upper end estimates have it as the largest flyer of all time. It's none other than the Northrop Quetzalcoatlus, which has some estimates placing its wingspan at a whopping 50 feet and up to 400 kilogram weight. The addition of the Quetz allows us to scale up the Magpie to have a 15 meter wingspan with the power and weight to boot. The large wide will also provide a high stoop speed thanks to the square cube law. On the topic of stooping, both Maddie and Avis used Falcons for their base genome. They did this prizing their speed, which is second to none amongst birds. However, Falcons favor this speed primarily because they were too small to let them their mass do the talking. Here, we have more than enough mass. This is why I decided to go with another bird that wasn't far behind in terms of speed, the golden eagle. These global icons have a maximum recorded stoop speed of over 200 miles per hour, which is enough to give even falcons a run for their money. This is without making the countless sacrifices that falcons have to make. Golden eagles also have immensely strong talons that can grip with considerable force. Not as much as their harpy cousins, but still plenty enough to take down prey orders of magnitude heavier. I also picked the golden eagle since it's famous for dragging prey off cliffs, letting gravity do the rest. This will allow the hybrid to easily throw down with animals weighing in excess of 10 tons. Another thing that would further boost the speed is the magpie's tendency to tuck their wings in completely when diving, a phenomenon I've observed personally. Earlier, I alluded to the fact that this hybrid will be specialized for mountainous and high-altitude environments. Now, many of you are probably asking how I'm going to pull this off. And the answer is simple: the bearded vulture. Already, vultures in general are a very good pick for a hybrid, as their scavenger lifestyle gives them extreme toxic resistance due to a highly acidic stomach, as well as a larger size due to them optimized for soaring. Some vultures like the condor ride warm updrafts of air to increase airtime. But what is special about the bearded vulture is that not only does it excel at those things with a stomach that regularly digests bones, it also lives at extreme altitudes, with the highest ones recorded living at 7,500 meters. When scaling up to the hybrid size using Kleiber's law, we should get a maximum permissible cruising altitude of over 14,000 meters, well above what commercial aircraft fly at. Bearded vultures are also known to use gravity to assist in hunting on the rare occasions that they actually do so.
You're toxic!
You're probably saying,
You said that you were aiming for a high aspect ratio like that about soaring birds.
And yes, I did say that I was going to favor a lower aspect ratio, unlike that found in soaring birds. But the main reason soaring birds even favor a higher aspect ratio is so that they can conserve energy over long periods of time by reducing drag. But it's not just the wing dimensions that matter, but the wing profile as well. When it comes to wing profile itself, what separates raptors from songbirds are the camber and thickness. Raptors have a higher camber and lower thickness, which favors lift and drag reductions respectively, whilst songbirds have a lower camber and higher thickness, which favors structural integrity in the face of higher accelerations. This will meet in the middle, taking a high camber and a moderate thickness. The result is a wing profile type being NACA 6209 under the 4-digit notation. This means that it has a 6% camber at 20% chord with a thickness of 9%. This allows for a considerable lift even at relatively low airspeeds and high altitudes, allowing for a hybrid that can both soar and maneuver rather well. Now, I'm pretty sure many of you are beginning to wonder how my hybrid's beak will be able to counter the toothed beak of Maddie, and the answer is simple. It won't. I'm not aiming for a toothed beak reinforced by iron. Already I'm going to be aiming for a beak that sort of meets in the middle regarding the pointy pecking beak of the magpie and quetz, as well as the hooked beak of the eagle and vulture. But that still doesn't answer the question. What will be this hybrid's main weapon if not the beak? And it's rather obvious. The feet. I've already talked about the sheer grip strength of eagles, as well as the super fast falcon punch of my competitors, but there is a better option to deal killing blows at a larger size than either of these two. A kick. And no bird kicks better than the legendary secretary bird. These African snake killers are known to kick with a force exceeding 5 times their own weight, and they do so with extreme pinpoint accuracy that would put even the eagle's eyes and the falcon's processing speed to shame. These long legs also provide the hybrid with a disjointed hitbox, allowing for the kicks to be properly employed at a safe distance. Not only that, but the secretary bird's beak makes for a perfect compromise between the hooked and pointy, just what we're after. And to make things better, they can still fly, and have the same arrangement of claws on their talons as all the contributors so far, save the quetz. There's surely no way I can make this better than it already is. Surely. Well, there is one last thing we can do to bolster the kick into something that would make even the ultimate Paratrix bleed. And that's to sacrifice one of its powerful eagle claws for one more optimized for kicking maneuver, like from a ratite. Now, I could just go for a cassowary as they have the best toe claw of all ratites, but there's a big problem with that. Ratites in general tend to be rather solitary, not too dissimilar from the rest of the contributors save for the magpie. But cassowaries take that solitary nature to the extreme. It's to the point that each individual needs a dedicated enclosure at zoos. This is why I chose the emu. Unlike most ratites, emus are social and live in flocks, which is why they won a war against Australia. This will help offset some of the solitary behavior patterns brought on by the quetz and other raptor contributors. And one thing I should note, emus and cassowaries typically have that special claw on the innermost toe. In order to minimize the negative impact sacrificing one claw to this would have on its ability to perch and grapple, a slight genetic liberty will be taken, moving the ratite toe claw to the center talon. Another thing emus are known for is jumping really high. This will help the hybrid take off as it doesn't have to watch for people's stance in the wet skin. With the genome complete, I present to you its Crane, the Orcrow. Species common name, Swiss megapie. Trinomial name, Pica gigantea helvetica. Length, 11.2 meters. Wingspan, 15 meters. Wing chord, 5.5 meters. Height, 9.2 meters. Weight, 380 kilograms. Maximum horizontal airspeed, 70 miles per hour. Typical stoop speed, 331 miles per hour. Absolute maximum airspeed calculated at 675 miles per hour. Genetic components, 62% Pika Pika Pika,
Pika Pikachu,
12% Sagittarius serpentarius, 10% Aquila chrysaetos chrysaetos, 9% Gyptaeus barbatus barbatus, 4% Quetzalcoatlus northropi, and 3% Dromaeus novaehollandiae novaehollandiae. Being 10 times heavier than Maddie, the calculations for that are linked in the description if you feel like I'm overscaling, this bird secures herself firmly as the queen of the mountains and the high skies. Based on several drag analyses, I found that despite being several times larger, its Crane can easily outrun even the speed-optimized Maddie, once again proving that raw movement speed is augmented with size when not having to deal with leg bone stresses. I don't even know if Maddie would be able to get close to the altitudes that its Crane would typically roost at, but if she does, the little angry bird had better be ready for the wrath of the mighty magpie.